We are on the record. The time on the monitor is 3:32 p.m. Here begins Volume 1, Video Number 1, in the deposition of Shirlee Helton in the matter of Stephen Cooper versus the United States of America in the United States District Court for the District of Arizona. Case number 15CV 02140 PGR. Today's date is May 5th, 2016. Our court reporter is Lilia Monarez. My name is Philip Walder, certified videographer representing Coash & Coash. This video deposition is taking place at Coash & Coash, 1802 North 7th Street, Phoenix, Arizona. Counsel, if you would please identify yourselves and state whom you represent.
Holly Mosier, attorney for plaintiff.
Gregory Patton on behalf of plaintiff Deborah Rollins. Stephen Cooper.
Ann Harwood for the United States.
Would the court reporter please swear in a witness?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give in the following proceedings shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Shirlee Helton.
Ms. Helton, have you had a deposition before?
No.
This is the first time?
Yes.
Have you had a chance to meet with your attorney or attorneys before this deposition?
Yes.
Let me go over a couple of ground rules so that we can perhaps make this go a little smoother today, all right?
Okay.
I'm going to be asking you some questions, and if I ask you a question that is somehow unclear to you, you don't understand it, please let me know and I'll rephrase it so that you understand it. Will you do that?
I will.
If you don't indicate to me in some way that you don't understand one of my questions, then I'll assume that you understand it is phrased. Is that fair?
Okay.
It's important that you do just as you are now. Wait until I finish my questions before you answer so that the court reporter can get both the question and answer, okay?
Okay.
During this deposition, I'll be asking you some things about my client, Mr. Cooper, one of your patients at some time, and I have some medical records that are in front of you marked as Exhibit 1, and there are other records available. If you need to refer to some other record or some document to answer a question, please let me know that, all right?
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't want you to guess or speculate about an answer, okay?
Okay.
If you don't know the answer or remember an event or a time frame or something, just tell me you don't remember. That's perfectly acceptable, okay?
Okay.
You understand that you're under penalty of perjury, just like you would be in a court of law here today?
Yes.
Is there any reason that you can't give us your best, most complete and truthful testimony here today?
No.
All right. You ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay. Have you had a chance to review any documents, including medical records or anything else in preparation for your deposition here today?
Yes.
Can you tell me what you reviewed?
I reviewed the progress note from my visit, and I believe a note from like the nurse visit also.
Okay. You have a very soft voice. Would you mind just keeping it up for me a little bit when you answer?
Okay.
Thank you. You said you reviewed a progress note or notes. Is that related to Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Was that, as far as I can see, for that single day, December 17th, 2011, when you saw Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
And as far as I could see in the records, that was the only time you saw Mr. Cooper. Is that correct?
Yes.
Other than the progress note that you prepared related to your examination of Mr. Cooper on December 17, 2011, were there any other documents you reviewed in preparation for your deposition?
No.
Did you review any other portion of Mr. Cooper's medical chart other than your progress note?
I did believe I seen something from the ER, but I don't remember the exact information that was on there. But I remember there was something about abdominal pain or something like that.
Okay, so you think you reviewed some records related to a visit to the emergency department or emergency room at the VA hospital by Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
And do you think that was before you saw him on December 17th, 2011, the note?
I don't remember. I don't remember the date.
Okay. anything else you reviewed other than an ER note related to Mr. Cooper and the progress note that you referenced related to your examination on December 17, 2011?
No.
Excuse me, have you reviewed any depositions, transcripts
No.
in this case? Have you been made aware of any deposition testimony of Dr. Mobley?
Yes.
Objection. To the extent that it calls for attorney-client privileged communications, I'm going to instruct you not to answer.
Yeah, and that's a fair objection. I don't want to know what you may have discussed with your lawyer.
Okay.
So let me ask it in a different way. Have you become aware of Dr. Mobley's deposition testimony in this case from any source other than your lawyer?
No.
Same question related to Stephen Cooper, my client's deposition testimony. Have you become aware of anything in his testimony from any source other than your lawyer?
No.
Can we turn the temperature down?
Yeah,
It's a little warm.
I was just gonna text.
Okay. They're going to adjust the air conditioning for us. Are you okay to proceed, Ms. Helton? I don't want to.
Yes.
Okay.
He doesn't have to be here.
He said he's all right.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Let's start off by taking a look at what I've marked as Exhibit 1 in front of you there, Ms. Helton. These are progress notes related to Mr. Cooper, and they are numbered. There's two numbers at the bottom of the right-hand corner. And so that we don't get confused, I'm going to refer to the lowest number where it says page 259 on the first page. Do you see that?
Yes.
And these are marked sequentially. So it goes from page 259 all the way to page 270 as the last page. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And so when I refer to page numbers, that's the number I'll be looking at, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Would you look at page 260, please, of exhibit number 1? And I'm looking under past medical history. Do you see where it says ABD pain?
Yes.
That means abdominal pain.
Yes.
And so this is your progress note of December 17, 2011, correct?
Yes.
Under history and physical exam.
Yes.
So that indicates that Mr. Cooper had a report of abdominal pain. Is that correct?
At some point in his medical history, yes.
Okay. Would you go to page 264? Tell me when you're there. Looks like you're there.
Yes.
Okay. This says preventative health management. It is dated December 17, 2011 at 11:16. Do you see that? Under date of note there. Bottom of the page.
So what did you say again?
The date of note says December 17, 2011, 11:16 a.m.
Yes.
Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and the author says Larry Highsmith. Do you see that?
Yes.
And who's Larry Highsmith?
He's a nurse.
Okay, and so is it your understanding that Larry Highsmith saw Mr. Cooper immediately before you on December 17, 2011?
From the notes, it does. I don't know, because I don't know who see the patient before I do. So from the note, it will say that. I'm not sure.
Okay. Is Larry Highsmith a nurse that you worked with back on December 17, 2011?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you know who Larry Highsmith is?
Yes.
He's a nurse that, among other things, would check in patients and do vital signs before you saw the patients. Is that true?
That's what normally the nurse would do, but I'm not sure what he did at that particular time.
Right. And I'm just asking generally. Is that
Yeah.
what Mr. Highsmith would do, Nurse Highsmith? He would take vitals on a patient and take some chief complaints and other information before you saw the patient on occasion?
He could, yes.
Okay. By the way, I take it you have no memory or recollection of Stephen Cooper, do you?
No.
You don't even remember what he looks like, do you?
No.
And you don't have any memory of your examination of Mr. Cooper back on December 17, 2011, do you?
No. other than the note.
Right. So the only information that you have that you could tell us about your examination of Mr. Cooper or anything about him on that day would be contained in your progress note, right?
Yes.
Because you don't have an independent memory of any of those things contained in the note, do you?
No,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. So going back to page 264, by the way, you've looked at progress notes where Mr. Highsmith or Nurse Highsmith has gathered information from patients preliminarily before they see you, right?
No,
Okay, well, let me ask you about this note. Here it says pain history, chronic, and would that mean that there's a history of chronic pain, as far as you understand it?
chronic would mean greater than 6 months.
Okay. And there it says, below that, what is your pain level now? Do you see that?
Yes,
And then it has check the pain level, clicking the appropriate measurement, and it's got basically 0 through 9. Do you see 10? Do you see that?
yes,
0 being no pain, 10 being the worst.
yes.
And would you go to the next page, page 265? And it looks like number 5 there, under what is your pain level at the top. Do you see that?
Yes,
Would that indicate that, at least from this note, that Mr. Cooper told Nurse Highsmith immediately before you saw Mr. Cooper that he had a pain level of 5?
yes,
And then below that it says pain level at its worst is 7. Do you see that?
yes,
Would that indicate that Mr. Cooper told Nurse Highsmith immediately before Mr. Cooper saw you that his pain level went from 5 to 7?
no.
What does it mean?
It means that at his worst, it could be any time. It
Yeah.
could be a 7, but not at that. It doesn't mean it has to be at that particular time.
And I appreciate you explaining that, because that's my question wasn't very clear. The 7 means that his pain level at some point in time would go as high as 7. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay. And then below that it says, where is your pain located? Do you see that? The question?
yes,
Okay. And under the question where it says, where is your pain located, it says abdominal. Do you see that?
yes,
And does that mean that Mr. Cooper was indicating, at least according to this note, to Nurse Highsmith immediately before he saw you, that his pain in his abdomen was at its lowest level of 5 and his highest level of 7?
no.
What does it mean?
It means to me that he was saying his pain at that, what's that? That his pain at that time was a 5, and that at some time, I don't know when, in the past, that it might have been at a 7,
Okay,
but not
right.
right before.
So let me just make sure I understand. When it says, what is your pain level now, that means the patient, presumably according to this note, is indicating to Nurse Highsmith that his pain level now, or then, was a 5, right?
Yes,
Okay, and then that pain level in his abdomen, Mr. Cooper, that he described to Nurse Highsmith, was in his abdomen, right?
yes,
According to this note. And he also further described it as a sharp pain, correct? If you see below there, description of pain.
yes.
Okay. Would you go to page 261, please? Let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
Okay. This is your progress note, and under review of systems, you see that?
Yes,
That's your review of the different systems, organ systems, other systems of Mr. Cooper, right?
yes,
And so you presumably gathered information during your examination of Mr. Cooper and your discussion with him about his condition,
yes.
right?
Yes,
Now, I want to make sure I got the time right here. So if you go back to page 260, the time is December 17, 2011 at 11:19, right above history and physical. Do you see that?
yes.
Does that mean that's when you started?
Possibly, I'm not sure.
Okay. So let's go back to your review of systems. Now, this is information, by the way, is this a template, the review of systems, where you fill things out that in this template?
We ask questions.
Yes.
It's not a set template.
Okay. Are there templates that are filled out in advance so that they are written so there's a negative observation under each system, and then you change it if it's a positive finding? Is that the way that works?
No, not necessarily. Everybody has their own template.
Okay. So let's go to under the GI system. Do you see that?
Yes.
That's gastrointestinal, right?
Correct.
Okay, you wrote no abdominal pain. Do you see that?
Yes.
Now that's inconsistent with what Nurse Hyland just observed minutes earlier, isn't it?
I don't have any control over Nurse Hyland. I'm going over what the patient told me.
Right. So I'm just asking you, where you wrote no abdominal pain, that is inconsistent with the note that Nurse Hyland wrote minutes earlier, isn't it?
I don't know exactly when his note was done.
Well,
Because
his note is timed. So let's take a look at it. You can go to page 264. See where it says December 17, 2011 at 11:16. Do you see that?
where you say?
The bottom of page 264. There's Hyland's note is timed 11:16. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then your note, if you go back to 260, is timed 3 minutes later, 11:19. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So according to the notes, your examination was about 3 minutes later.
Yes.
Okay, so with respect to your note, where you say no abdominal pain, that is inconsistent with Nurse Hyland's observations, where he wrote in his note that the pain level was in Mr. Cooper's abdomen at a level of 5 and up to a level of 7. Isn't that correct?
At a level 5, yes, I agree with that, but I don't know about the 7.
Would you admit that the note is inconsistent with Mr. Hyland's observations?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the other thing you reviewed in your review of systems was under psychiatric. You see that? This is page 261 of your progress note.
Yes.
You see that portion, psychiatric? That's your review of Mr. Cooper's psychiatric history. Is that right?
Yes.
And under psychiatric, you wrote no history of depression, right?
Yes.
And that means that as far as you understood it in your examination, and whatever you wrote in your note, you wrote that Mr. Cooper had no history of depression. Is that right?
It would mean that if I asked him the questions, he didn't give me any indication for depression.
Right. I just want to find out what the note says. It says no history of depression. That was your note, right?
Correct.
Okay. Would you go to page 269, please? At the bottom of 269, there is a depression screen. Do you see that?
Yes.
And it says a PHQ-9 screen was performed. The score was 15, which is suggestive of moderately severe depression. Do you see that?
Yes.
What is a PHQ-9 screen? Do you know?
It's a depression screen.
Okay. It's a series of questions that are asked of the patient, and based on the responses to those questions, there will be a score related to the level of depression, right?
Yes.
According to this note, page 269, Mr. Cooper was rated as moderately severely depressed with a score of 15 on a PHQ-9. Isn't that true?
That's what the note says.
And so if we go back to your note, page 261, where it says psychiatric review of systems, you have no history of depression, which is inconsistent with or different from that finding of moderately or moderately severe depression, isn't it?
What mine says is that in the past, he didn't have a history of depression.
Let me ask you this. If someone in the VA had performed a PHQ screen on Mr. Cooper within a few days or weeks when you saw him, and he had a score of 15, which was rated as moderately severe depression, that would be a history of depression, wouldn't it?
If it was within a few days,
The answer is it would be a history of depression. Is that correct?
yes.
And your psychiatric review of symptoms where you say no history of depression is inconsistent with that, isn't it?
It would be.
Okay.
I don't agree with that, because when I would have asked him the questions, he didn't give me any indication of depression. I may not have seen this depression scale.
I'm not asking you what may have happened. The only thing I'm asking you, Ms. Helton, is if someone had written in a note like we just read, days or weeks before you saw Mr. Cooper, that a PHQ screen was performed with a score of 15 and he was determined to be moderately severely depressed, that's a history of depression, isn't it?
It is, but it's still subjective.
And that history of depression is inconsistent with your review of psychiatric systems where you say no history of depression. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
Okay, would you look at page 267? This is a note dated December 2nd, 2011 at 10:45 in the morning by Preventative Health Management. This is about 2 weeks before you saw Mr. Cooper on the 17th. Do you see that?
Yes.
And if you go to the next page of this Preventative Health Management note of December 2nd, 2011, at the bottom, it says, patient has chronic nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Do you see that?
Which page are you saying?
Page 268,
Okay.
at the bottom, it says the patient has chronic nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Do you see that?
Ye- Yes.
And if we go back to your review of systems note, about 2 weeks later, under GI, you've written no nausea or vomiting or diarrhea. Do you see that?
Yes.
That's inconsistent with the note a few weeks later where Mr. Cooper was recorded as having chronic nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, isn't it?
Yes.
Would you look at your review of systems note, same page 261, under HEENT? Is that head, ears, eyes, nose, throat?
Yes.
And that's the system you're reviewing, right?
Yes.
And under there it says in your history of head, ears, eye, nose, throat, you write visual impairments, comma, wears glasses. Do you see that?
Yes.
Does that mean that you're writing there that Mr. Cooper had a visual impairment and wore glasses or corrective lenses?
Yes.
And is that, do you claim that Mr. Cooper told you that?
Yes.
Um,
Or he would have had them on when I did my exam.
one of the two, right?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper has testified under oath in a deposition that he's never worn glasses at any point in his life, or contact lenses, either then or now or before. Are you saying that Mr. Cooper is lying?
Objection form. Argumentative.
You can answer.
I don't know.
Let me ask you this. Could it be that you made a mistake, that you wrote something down here under your review systems and you just were incorrect?
No.
Impossible. Is that
No.
right?
No. Because I wouldn't have wrote it.
Right. So what you're saying is it's impossible that you made a mistake when you wrote down that Mr. Cooper had visual impairment and wore glasses. It's impossible that you made a mistake. He had to have told you that, right?
Yes.
Or he had to be wearing corrective glasses at the time, right?
Yes.
Okay. Same thing goes for where you wrote history of depression. That's impossible that he would have said he had no history of depression, right?
He wouldn't, yes.
and where you wrote no abdominal pain, it's impossible that he actually had abdominal pain. You believe that he said that he didn't have abdominal pain. Is that right?
It would mean that he didn't tell me at that visit that he had it.
Right. You would have asked him, though, right,
Of
if he had abdominal pain?
Yes, I would.
So it's your testimony that Mr. Cooper told you he had no abdominal pain here on December 17th, 2011. Is that right?
Yes.
Let me ask you to go to page 262 of your progress note. You see where it says assessment?
Yes.
This is your note, your assessment of Mr. Cooper after your discussion with him in your examination, correct?
Yes.
Does that say abdominal pain?
Yes.
Does that mean that you assessed that he had abdominal pain?
No, it would be from his history.
Oh, so you believe that Mr. Cooper had a history of abdominal pain on December 17, 2011, but didn't have pain when you saw him in his abdomen and examined him. Is that true?
Possibly, I don't know.
Well, your note says that he had no abdominal pain, and you said that you couldn't have made a mistake. He must have told you he had no abdominal pain, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, your assessment doesn't say history of abdominal pain, it just says abdominal pain. But did you mean to write history of abdominal pain?
Not necessarily.
Okay. But that's what you meant, right?
Yes.
The last thing I want to ask you about your review of systems regarding your examination of Mr. Cooper is under your genitourinary portion of the chart. See where it says GU/GYN?
Yes.
Now, GYN would be gynecological, right?
Correct.
So that wouldn't apply to a man or Mr. Cooper. It would just be the GU, genitourinary, right?
Correct.
And what you wrote there was no dysuria, right?
Correct.
He told you that, right?
Correct.
And what's dysuria?
Burning with urination or discomfort urinating, any kind of discomfort urinating.
And you wrote no hematuria. What's that?
No blood in the urine.
And you wrote you wrote nocturia with an X there. Do you see that?
Yes.
And what's nocturia?
Getting up at night to urinate.
What's the X denote here?
It would have been time.
I'm sorry?
Time.
Time what?
How many times?
But there's nothing there, right?
Correct.
So what does that mean?
I don't know. He evidently didn't tell me a number, so that's why I didn't put anything there.
Well, would you ask him? Like, how many times do you urinate at night?
Yes.
And
That's why it's there.
Okay. And what did he tell you according to your note?
I don't remember.
You didn't write it down?
I didn't, evidently not.
So sometimes you don't write down things in your chart. Is that right?
No, I usually do.
Here you just forgot?
I don't know.
Okay. For whatever reason, you didn't write down the number of times that Mr. Cooper told you he urinated at night. Is that correct?
He didn't tell me he urinated at night.
Oh, he didn't tell you he urinated at night.
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because I would have put a number there if he had.
Okay. Now, I don't see anything indicating that you asked Mr. Cooper about whether or not he had urinary hesitancy. Do you see anything in your note that indicates that?
Dysuria would be the same thing. Dysuria would be the same thing.
So, in your opinion, dysuria also means urinary hesitancy or difficulty starting and stopping your urine stream. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, in your opinion, then dysuria means pain while urinating as well as difficulty starting and stopping your urine stream. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And you asked Mr. Cooper about whether he had difficulty starting and stopping his urinary stream?
I asked him, did he have any urinary symptoms like dysuria or hematuria or frequency or urgency? I asked him those questions, and he said, he didn't say no, he said no, he did not.
And as we talked about before, you have no memory of asking him any of those things. You just have to rely on your note, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is it possible that Mr. Cooper actually told you that he had difficulty starting and stopping his urine stream and you just didn't write it down?
No, because I wouldn't have put no dysuria.
I see. So that's impossible that you made a mistake. Is that right?
Right.
So if Mr. Cooper testified under oath in a deposition, just like you're here today testifying, that he told you that he had difficulty starting and stopping his urinary stream or flow, you're saying that he is being dishonest or telling a lie. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Let me ask you some questions about PSA testing in general. Back in December of 2011, was there any VA protocol that you were aware of for PSA testing on 40-year-old men?
No.
So if you decided you want to order a PSA testing for someone like Mr. Cooper, a 40-year-old man, back in December 2011, you could do that?
If I thought it was necessary, yes, I could.
Okay. No restrictions on that from the VA, is that right?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Okay. So if you decided you wanted to order some PSA testing for Mr. Cooper back in December of 2011, you could have done that, right?
If I thought it was necessary, yes.
And there wouldn't have been any problem with the VA in you doing that, is that right?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
No.
There may have been a problem with you ordering PSA testing for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011?
I don't think so, but it wasn't a reason. I didn't see a reason for it.
Okay. Were you ever told or directed by the VA not to order PSA testing for men under a certain age?
No.
Were you ever told or directed by the VA not to order PSA testing for men under a certain age unless there was urinary symptoms?
No.
By the way, have you spoken to Dr. Mobley lately?
No.
When's the last time you talked with him?
I don't remember.
Would you agree that there's a difference between screening PSA test and follow-up PSA testing after abnormal findings?
Yes.
And just so I understand, PSA testing for screening purposes means you would just perform or order a PSA test on someone without any particular reason, just to screen them for prostate cancer, right?
That's not normal to do that unless there's a reason, though, unless they're within a certain age range. You don't just automatically just do a PSA on anybody.
Right, and that's not my question. What I'm asking is the difference between PSA screening and PSA follow-up testing after abnormal findings. PSA screening means you're ordering a PSA test on someone without any reason to do it. There's no abnormal findings, right?
That's correct.
And PSA testing after abnormal findings means, as you've said, there's some reason to order PSA testing because you've got some abnormal finding either on a digital rectal exam or for some other reason, right?
Yes.
Under what circumstances would you have ordered a PSA test for Mr. Cooper back on December 11, 2011?
If he had a positive family history of prostate cancer, or he had an abnormal rectal exam, or if he had told me he had some problems urinating.
Okay, so let me ask you about two of those things. You said if Mr. Cooper had an abnormal rectal exam, DRE, right?
Correct.
You would have ordered a PSA test for him back in December 2011. Is that right?
Correct.
And if he would have had problems urinating that you were aware of, you would have ordered a PSA test for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011. Is that right?
Possibly, I'm not sure. It depends on the circumstances.
Either one of those findings, an abnormal rectal exam or problems urinating, would have prompted you to order a PSA test for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011. Is that correct?
Depends on the findings,
What findings?
on the exam.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. When you said you would have ordered a PSA test for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011 if he had an abnormal rectal exam, what did you mean?
I meant if he had like a nodule, hard nodule on there, then that would have.
What other findings on an abnormal rectal exam would have prompted you to perform a PSA test on Mr. Cooper back in December 2011?
if it was a hard nodule on the prostate.
Okay, so you already said nodule or hard nodule. So what other, if any, abnormal findings on your rectal exam would have prompted you to order a PSA test for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011?
None.
That's it.
Yes.
So the only abnormal finding that would have prompted you to order a PSA test for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011 on a digital rectal exam would be if he had a nodule. Is that right?
Yes.
Nothing else?
No.
Correct?
Correct. Unless it was maybe very, very large, maybe I might would have, but that would be the only other reason.
Okay, so now you got a new reason. You said if Mr. Cooper had a very, very large, you meant prostate, right?
Right.
So if Mr. Cooper had a very, very large prostate on your digital rectal exam back in December 2011, you would have ordered a PSA test. Is that right?
All of that, you can't just say that. You have to go along with the other things too. He has to have problems urinating, some kind of urinary symptoms to go along with that to order a PSA. You don't just randomly order a PSA level on somebody like that.
Yeah, and ma'am, we're not talking about a random order of a PSA, because remember I started out asking you, under what circumstances would you have been prompted to order a PSA test for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011? Do you remember me asking you that?
Yes.
And you said there were two things you pointed out to me. You said one would be an abnormal rectal exam, right?
Yes.
And you told me the other would be problems urinating, right?
Correct.
So I'm asking you specifically about your abnormal rectal exam. And you told me that one of the things that would have prompted you to order PSA testing for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011 on an abnormal rectal exam would be a nodule in his prostate, correct?
Objection form. I think she also included family history in her answer.
Counsel, please, if you have an objection, just form or foundation. I'm asking
Well,
a
I'm
question.
saying it misstates her testimony.
Well, it doesn't misstate her testimony. So let me ask you the question again. You told me earlier that one of the things that would have prompted you to order a PSA test for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011 was an abnormal rectal exam, right?
And as my counsel said, and I did tell you if he had a family history of prostate cancer.
Well,
I said that.
let's make sure we have your testimony, because I'm
'Cause
starting
I
to hear
said that.
different things, but I want to make sure I got the right answer. Okay. If Mr. Cooper would have had an abnormal rectal exam back in December 2011, would that have prompted you to perform a PSA test?
With a prostate nodule, yes, it would have.
Okay, so let's go back there. And that's what I wrote down when I first asked you the question. I asked you, what would have prompted you to order a PSA test for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011? And you said one of the things would be an abnormal rectal exam. Is that right?
Well, an abnormal rectal exam means to me a prostate nodule. Hard nodule on the prostate or induration. That's what an abnormal exam means to me.
Yes, ma'am. I know, and I just haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
So, one of the things that would have prompted you to order a PSA test for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011 is an abnormal rectal exam. Is that correct?
Not just abnormal. It has to be like a prostate nodule.
I think,
Or
let me just
induration.
object to form. The term is not defined what abnormal means.
Let me perhaps make it a little easier. When I asked you what would have prompted you to order a PSA test for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011, you said it would be an abnormal rectal exam, which would be, in your mind, a nodule on his prostate, right?
Correct.
Is there anything else that you could find in what you would consider an abnormal rectal exam that would prompt you to order a PSA test for Mr. Cooper other than a nodule on his prostate?
No.
The other thing that you said would have prompted you to order a PSA test for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011 would be problems urinating. Is that correct?
Only if he had problems urinating and he had an abnormal exam, that would make me get it. It has to be the combination of things, not just one thing.
Okay, well, I want to make sure. So are you saying that you'd have to find two things in Mr. Cooper to order a PSA test back in December 2011, both an abnormal rectal exam, which would be a nodule on his prostate, as well as problems urinating?
Correct.
Got to have both.
Yes. It don't have to be both. It could just been a nodule.
That's what I'm trying to find out. So let's take it a step at a time. It's your testimony, ma'am, that had you found a nodule on Mr. Cooper's prostate back in December 2011, you would have ordered a PSA test. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. If Mr. Cooper had complained of problems urinating back in December 2011, would that have prompted you to order a PSA test?
That by
No.
itself?
No. Not by itself, it would not.
Okay. What else would have been necessary?
If I had, when I did the exam and his exam was abnormal with a nodule, then that would have been enough to get me to order a PSA.
Okay. And you've already told me that the nodule alone would have prompted you to order a PSA test, right?
Correct.
And then you said if he's got urinary problems, if he had some other abnormalities in the digital rectal exam, you would have ordered a PSA test, right?
No, I said if he had a nodule on the digital rectal exam with some problems urinating, I would have ordered a PSA.
Okay. Got to have both.
In that instance, yes.
Okay. The other thing that you told me was you would have ordered a PSA exam for Mr. Cooper if he had a very, very large prostate, right?
Not necessarily unless he had a nodule, some kind of abnormalities. Men have enlarged prostate, and that's not prostate cancer.
Just asking you a question, ma'am. If Mr. Cooper had an enlarged prostate back in December 2011, would that have prompted you to order a PSA exam?
No.
Did you ever discuss PSA testing with Mr. Cooper back in December 2011?
No. I don't know.
Well,
I don't remember.
you don't have any memory, I know, of Mr. Cooper's examination. You already told me that, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, so is there anything in any of your notes that indicates that you ever discussed PSA testing with Mr. Cooper back in December 2011?
Not in my notes, I don't remember.
Right. And if you had discussed PSA testing with Mr. Cooper, is that something you'd typically put in your notes?
If I ordered it, yes.
If you discussed it?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Did you consider PSA testing for Mr. Cooper back in December 2011?
No.
Are you aware of the concept of shared decision-making between a doctor and a patient?
Yes.
What is that?
And that's discussing it with the patient, their care.
I'm sorry.
Discussing with the patient their care, their treatment plan.
And so that's important to have shared decision-making with the patient because you want the patient to be able to participate in his health care, right?
Yes.
And you want the patient to be able to make decisions in his own behalf related to his health care, right?
If he is understanding what's going on with his care, yes.
Right. And so, for example, when you're going to order PSA testing or consider PSA testing, that's something you would discuss with your patient, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Because the patient has the right to make a decision as to whether or not he agrees to undergo testing. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Did you make a decision not to discuss PSA testing with Mr. Cooper?
I didn't think it was necessary.
So you made the decision not to discuss PSA testing with Mr. Cooper. Is that
Yes.
right? Isn't it true that obstructive symptoms of lower urinary tract appear late in the clinical course of prostate cancer?
Not necessarily.
Have you seen the American Urological Association tutorial or guideline on digital rectal exams?
I'm sure I have at some point, maybe. I'm not sure.
Well, let me ask you, if it is the American Urological Association's position that the obstructive symptoms of lower urinary tract appear late in the clinical course of prostate cancer. Do you disagree with that?
I don't know. So I don't know what it says.
Well, I'm not asking you what it says. I'm saying assuming the American Urological Association states that they have the position that lower urinary tract obstruction occurs late in the clinical course of prostate cancer, would you disagree with the truth of that statement?
No.
Do you know why you did the digital rectal exam on Mr. Cooper back in December 2011?
Because I usually on a guy that's 40, I'll do it as a baseline a lot of times.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part. Could you
I
say that
said
again?
I would normally just do it as a baseline.
So, as I understand it, you would normally do a digital rectal exam on a 40-year-old man as a baseline. Is that what you said?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Just that tells me for later on if I know what it is at this point, and then later on and someone else was to do it, then they'll know what it was at that time. That's just whatever it was at that particular time, first time staging it.
Okay. Now, do you know how it was that Mr. Cooper came to see you on December 17, 2011?
You said how?
Yeah.
No.
Well, you were working in the urological department at the VA hospital, right? In December 17, 2011?
Yes.
And as I understand it, you're a urological nurse practitioner.
Yes.
Did you normally see patients that were referred to the urology department?
Yes.
Is that what you did exclusively? You saw patients who referred to the urological department at the VA?
Yes.
So Mr. Cooper wouldn't have seen you on December 17, 2011 unless he was referred to the urological department. Isn't that true?
No.
How would he have seen you?
Because I also did primary care on Saturdays.
Oh, okay. So in this case, what were you doing when you saw Mr. Cooper on December 17, 2011? Was it primary care?
Primary care.
And how do you know that?
Because that's the only time I did primary care was on Saturdays.
Okay. Can you tell from your note?
Yes.
And what is it you see in your note that indicates you were doing primary care for Mr. Cooper when you saw him on December 17, 2011?
Because it's not a urology note.
Okay. And so what your testimony is, as I understand it, is you, as a matter of course, do digital rectal exams on 40-year-old men as a baseline. Is that right?
I have.
That you did back in December 17, 2011, right?
I did.
And if someone had been seen by you as a primary care nurse practitioner and they had some complaints of a urological nature, would that prompt you to do a digital rectal exam?
Yes.
So, for example, if Mr. Cooper came to you on December 17, 2011 and said, I got difficulty urinating, that would prompt you to do a digital rectal exam, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Now, does your note indicate whether or not you were doing a baseline digital rectal exam or whether or not you were doing a digital rectal exam because of urological complaints?
Doesn't say.
So it could have been either?
No.
Why not?
Because I just do, I would have had to say a reason for urological, reason for it to have been a urological one.
Okay. So now Mr. Cooper has testified under oath in a deposition, just like you have here today, under penalty of perjury, that when he came in to see you on December 17, 2011, one of the things he told you was, I'm having difficulty urinating, starting and stopping my urine stream. Are you saying that he's lying?
Yes.
Because it's impossible that you made a mistake, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that Mr. Cooper testified was that when he told you in this examination, December 17, 2011, that he's having difficulty starting and stopping his urine stream, you said, put your hands on the table and drop your drawers. I'm going to do a digital rectal exam. Are you saying he's lying?
I wouldn't have never told the patient to do that.
So he's lying, is that right?
Yes, he's lying. I wouldn't have said it like that. I don't tell my patients that. That's not very professional.
Okay, and you know, I'm paraphrasing. So let me see if I can rephrase the question. If Mr. Cooper testified that after he told you that he had difficulty starting and stopping his urine stream, you said to him, I'm going to do a digital rectal exam, would he be lying?
Will you repeat that again?
Sure. If Mr. Cooper testified under oath in a deposition, just like you are here today, that after he told you he's having difficulty starting and stopping his urinary stream or flow, and you said, I'm going to perform a digital rectal exam, would he be lying?
He's lying because he didn't tell me that.
What's the normal weight for a 40-year-old man's prostate?
Normal prostate, 20-25.
And take a look at your...
But I can't tell you that for sure because I do exams on 40-year-old guys and their prostates are larger than 20-25. They are sometimes 30, 40 grams, and they have a normal prostate. It just enlarged. So everybody's different. You can't put a number on nobody's prostate. And plus, that's a subjective thing when you're doing it. You can't feel somebody entire prostate when you're actually doing it. It's subjective. I do it, somebody else do it. Everybody may have a different number. It's subjective.
Are you finished?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have an estimate as to what the normal weight of a prostate is for a 40-year-old man?
No.
Would you take a look at your note, page 262, please? You have under prostate there, I take it that's your findings on the prostate exam, is that right?
Yes.
And it says, does that say approximately 30 grams?
Yes.
That's your estimate of Mr. Cooper's prostate, right?
Yes.
Do you think that's on the larger side for a 40-year-old man?
Not really.
Okay. You have there smooth. Does that mean his prostate was smooth upon palpation?
Yes.
And then you have moderate. What does that mean?
That it was slightly enlarged.
Okay, so moderately enlarged, right?
Yeah, slightly, as I've written on my note here, slightly.
Well, ma'am, I don't see slightly. That's why I'm asking. It says
Yes.
moderate, doesn't it?
Yes, further
So,
down,
did you mean what you wrote, that it's moderately enlarged prostate?
slightly.
I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. Did you write moderate there?
Yes,
Does that refer to the size of Mr. Cooper's prostate?
yes,
And it says asymmetrical with left lobe slightly larger than the right. Do you see that?
yes,
Does that mean his left lobe is slightly larger than his right lobe?
yes.
You know, I asked you what you will consider abnormal findings on a DRE prostate exam, and you told me one is a nodule. Remember that?
Yes.
Tell me other abnormal findings on a DRE prostate exam other than a nodule on the prostate.
That's it.
That's the only abnormal finding there is?
Indurations.
I'm sorry?
Indurations.
I'm sorry, I'm not getting you.
An induration on the prostate.
Can you spell that for me?
Induration.
What does that mean?
It means a sunken in area, an abnormal area that's sunken in that should not be there.
Okay, so I just want to list all the things that you consider to be abnormal findings on a DRE prostate exam. So, indurations is one, right?
Yes,
The other is nodule, you told me about, right?
yes.
What other abnormal findings on a DR prostate exam exist other than indurations and nodule, if any?
That's it, unless they had a very large prostate. When I say very large, I'm meaning 50, 60, 70 gram prostate, not a 25 or 30 gram prostate.
So let's just make sure I got this right. Your list of abnormal findings on a DRA prostate exam are 1, indurations, right?
Yes.
2, nodule, correct?
Yes.
3, a very, very large prostate, 50 to 70 grams, right?
Correct.
Are there any other abnormal findings of a prostate on a DRE exam other than those 3 things?
No.
What about an asymmetrical prostate? Is that an abnormal finding?
It could be, but not necessarily.
Could be.
Not necessarily, though.
Okay, so under what circumstances would an asymmetrical prostate be an abnormal finding?
If it had a nodule on the prostate.
Okay, and if it didn't, then it wouldn't be an abnormal finding. Is that right?
No,
Correct?
no.
You need to, is it correct?
It's,
Is my question to you correct? That if you have an asymmetrical prostate, it's normal unless there's also a nodule. Is that correct?
in my findings, yes. In my assumption, yes, I put it that way, yes.
Okay, so any other abnormal findings in a DRA prostate exam other than indurations, nodule, a prostate that's 50 to 70 grams, or an asymmetrical prostate with a nodule? Is there anything else?
No. And I need to clarify that even with the 50 or 70 gram prostate, it does not have to be, it could just be enlarged. It doesn't have to be abnormal. Some
Understood.
men have big prostates that's smooth, no nodules, just large.
Have you now told me all of the abnormal findings in a prostate DRE exam that exist?
I can't tell you if that's all that exists.
That's all that you know of.
Right.
Okay. Is it your testimony, ma'am, that your prostate exam of Mr. Cooper is moderately enlarged, asymmetrical with left lobe slightly larger than the right, being approximately 30 grams, was a normal DRE prostate exam?
Objective form, I think you misread that.
Is that true, ma'am? Is that a normal prostate exam?
It's slightly abnormal, but it's not an abnormality to warrant any further testing.
So your testimony is that Mr. Cooper's findings on prostate exam are slightly abnormal. Is that right?
Slightly.
Okay. Can an enlarged prostate be a sign of prostate cancer?
It could be anything.
Can an enlarged prostate be a sign of prostate cancer?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Can an asymmetrical prostate be a sign of prostate cancer?
Maybe. I don't know.
Does prostate cancer tend to be more aggressive in younger men?
No, not necessarily.
Did you tell Mr. Cooper he had an enlarged asymmetrical prostate following your DRE exam?
Yes.
Did you tell Mr. Cooper that there was nothing wrong with his prostate and there was nothing that he could do about it?
No.
So if Mr. Cooper testified under oath that when he asked you about his prostate exam and you told him it was enlarged and asymmetrical, and you told him there was nothing wrong with that and there was nothing that he could do about it, he would be lying. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because that's impossible that you told him that. Is that correct?
Yes.
You didn't refer Mr. Cooper to a urologist, did you, following your examination?
No.
You didn't even discuss that with Mr. Cooper, did you?
No.
You didn't suggest any follow-up urological care for Mr. Cooper, did you?
No.
You didn't even discuss that with Mr. Cooper, did you?
No.
Does the fact that, let me strike that. Does the absence of difficulty urinating in a patient like Mr. Cooper eliminate the possibility of prostate cancer?
Mr. Cooper never told me he had difficulty urinating. So.
Yes, ma'am, and that's not my question. Please listen to my question. Does the absence of difficulty urinating in a patient like Mr. Cooper eliminate the possibility that he may have prostate cancer?
No.
Did you take any steps to rule out infection or prostatitis in Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
What did you do?
The digital rectal exam.
And by the digital rectal exam, you were able to determine that Mr. Cooper did not have prostatitis or an infection. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you take any steps to rule out prostate cancer for Mr. Cooper following his DRE exam?
No.
I want to make sure I understand this. And looking at your note, there isn't anything in there that indicates whether Mr. Cooper had difficulty urinating, is there?
No.
Is that correct?
No. What? Say the question again?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's probably the way I said it.
Yeah.
It's true, isn't it, that there is nothing in your note that indicates whether Mr. Cooper had difficulty urinating?
Yes.
You wrote in your note to RTC in 6 months to the clinic. I think that means return to clinic, is that right?
Yes.
And what did you, that's in your plan, what were you planning for Mr. Cooper to do when he was to return in 6 months to the clinic?
He was supposed to follow up with his primary regarding his medication.
Oh, okay.
And it looks like I written here he didn't want to start medication for his cholesterol.
Yes.
So I told him to work on his diet,
Okay.
and then follow up with his primary after that, and then they could check him to see if he needs to start on medication.
Okay. So with your return to clinic in 6 months as part of your plan for Mr. Cooper, in no way related to any of his urological care, is that correct?
It relates to whatever issue he has going on.
Well, ma'am, I'm asking you a specific question. When you wrote return to clinic in 6 months, that didn't have anything to do with Mr. Cooper's urological care. Isn't that true?
No.
Is that correct?
No.
So did you expect Mr. Cooper to return to the clinic in 6 months for urological follow-up?
I don't know. I expected him to return to clinic for whatever problems that he had. I don't know what problems he had.
Okay, well, the only problems you know that Mr. Cooper had on December 17, 2011 are what's written in your note, right?
Correct.
All right. And you, as you described to me, you believe that Mr. Cooper did not have any urological problems on December 17, 2011 when you saw him and examined him, correct?
Correct.
So when you asked Mr. Cooper to return to the clinic as part of your plan in 6 months, it was not for any urological follow-up. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
Tell me what sources you consider to be reliable professional sources of information in your field, urology.
Objection form and foundation. Go ahead.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
maybe the question isn't clear. Let me rephrase it, because there might be a good reason to object. There probably is.
I don't know what you mean by reliable.
I understand. Let me ask it a different way. Are there particular journals or other publications that you look at on a regular basis to keep abreast of your field in urological care?
Yes.
What are those?
AUA.
I'm sorry?
AUA.
The American Urological Association?
Yes.
Do you read their journal?
I do.
What's the name of it?
I go to the AUA and look at the AUA site.
The website.
Correct.
Okay.
And pull off literature from the site.
Okay. What else do you look at other than the American Urological Association?
I look at lots of different nursing magazines that talks about the geriatrics and different diseases. So what I'm asking you really is, with respect to urological care, is there anything else that you consider to be a good source of information to keep abreast of your field in urology, other than the American Urological Association? That's the one I normally use.
Okay. You're familiar with the American Urological Association practice guidelines, quote, early detection of prostate cancer?
I'm sure at some point I have read that.
You think those are reliable sources of information?
Objective form.
You can answer.
Usually, yes.
Is there any reason that you think that the American Urological Association's practice guidelines, early detection of prostate cancer, are inaccurate or not a good source of information with respect to detection of prostate cancer?
Objective form.
No.
I want to talk generally about the VA, Veterans Administration, the hospital that you worked at here, Carl Hayden.
Yes.
Did you feel there were any problems with the VA Urological Department in 2011?
Objective form. Foundation.
You can answer.
No.
Were there any problems with the VA in general in 2011 that you were aware of?
Objective form and foundation.
You can answer.
I guess, I don't know, patients maybe have a difficult time sometimes getting in for visits.
So,
And that's the reason I worked on Saturdays to try to help to do that.
okay. So let me ask you this. Back in 2011, did it come to your attention that patients, VA patients, veterans, had a difficult time getting urological consultation referrals?
No.
They didn't have any problem at all that you were aware of?
No.
Did it come to your attention that back in 2011 that veterans had any problems getting urological treatment?
Yes.
Tell me what you know about that.
Just that they was having some difficult time getting in. They said because of the wait times.
And what did you know about that, if anything?
That's all I knew.
How did you know?
Because I heard some patients complain sometimes.
So they would complain to you?
Yes.
And did you find that there were a significant number, or at least in your mind, a significant number of patients who complained to you about the wait time in getting urological care back in 2011?
Not to, not to me.
To others?
I don't know.
What, did you hear from any source?
No.
How many patients were you seeing per day back in December 2011?
When? I don't understand the question. When? Where? And what department are you asking me?
Okay.
Urology or primary care?
Okay, and I'm glad you clarified that. So you saw patients both in primary care and urology, is that correct?
Yes.
Back in December 2011, how many patients would you typically see in a day for primary care purposes?
I'm not sure.
Do you have an estimate?
No.
You don't know if it was 1 or 10 or 20?
I don't remember how many.
Do you have any estimate at all?
Maybe 10.
And how many patients would you see in a typical day back in December 2011 related to urological care?
Probably 14, 15.
And would you see then a total of 24 patients a day?
Oh, no.
Separate days?
Separate days.
Okay. So back on December 17, 2011, do you know how many patients you saw on that day?
No.
Do you know if Mr. Cooper was your first patient
No.
or last patient?
No.
Did you feel like you were seeing too many patients, or you were overloaded with the number of patients you were seeing back in December 2011?
No.
You didn't feel overworked or overwhelmed in any way. Is that true?
No.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
How many patients were you seeing on December 17, 2011? Do you know? Do you know what you were scheduled for?
No.
How many would you typically be scheduled for?
I'm not sure.
Well, would it be 10?
I'm thinking 10. I'm not sure.
All right. Have you seen men with prostate cancer in their 40s?
Yes.
How many have you seen?
I don't know.
More than 10?
No.
You know that men can have prostate cancer in their 40s, don't you?
Yes.
Do you have a CV with you by any chance?
No.
Do you have a CV that you keep on your computer or something?
Possibly.
Okay. Would you do me a favor? If you do have one, would you provide it to your counsel, Ms. Harwood, so you could provide it to me?
Yeah, I should have asked her for one. I didn't ask her for one.
Okay. All right. So we're
If
going
you have one, send it to me. If not, I'm not going to have her create something. Just
No, I wouldn't expect you to. If you have a CV, sometimes people keep a CV on their computer. They just have a list of their education and professional experience. If you have that, would you send it to Ms. Harwood, please?
Okay.
So tell me about your educational background, beginning with when you graduated from high school forward.
Went to school for a nurse, licensed practical nurse. I worked there for worked as a licensed practical nurse for about 5 years.
Wait, let me just stop you. So when did you become a licensed practical nurse? What year?
I don't know.
Give me an estimate. You have to give me some time frame, if you could.
1980?
Okay. So was being a licensed practical nurse your first experience in the medical field?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get an associate's degree or just training? How did you become a licensed practical nurse?
You just get a license as a practical nurse.
Okay. What state was that?
Tennessee.
Okay. And how long did you work as a licensed practical nurse?
I think about 5 years.
Okay. So that puts us around 1985. Then what?
Went to school for registered nurse, associate degree.
2-year degree?
2 year.
And where'd you get that degree?
Somewhere in Mississippi. I'm not, it was in, I don't remember, somewhere in Mississippi.
It was a school?
School, yes.
Was it a junior college or?
It was a community college,
Okay. You just don't remember the name?
Northwest Mississippi Community College.
And you got a associate's, RN, okay. And then did you take the nursing board somewhere?
Yes,
Where?
Tennessee.
Tennessee. When did you take the nursing boards?
I don't remember.
Can you give me some general idea if you got your degree in 1985?
I don't know.
Would it have been within the same year that you got your associate's degree in RN?
No.
Later?
I don't remember. I've got many degrees. I don't remember.
Okay, we'll go through each one of them.
I don't remember that. That's
So-
too far back.
Okay, so let's just 1985. You did remember that you got your RN associate's degree from Northwestern County College, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then you took your nursing boards to become a registered nurse, right?
Yes.
And you did that in Tennessee, correct?
Correct.
Was it a year, 5 years after you got your associate's degree? Do you have any estimate? or not?
It'll be 2 years.
Okay, so about 1987 approximately, you took the nursing boards, right?
Approximately. I'm not sure.
Okay, did you pass the first time?
No.
How many times did you have to take the nursing
One.
boards? Okay, and when did you finally get the nursing boards?
I don't remember.
After 1987?
The same year.
Okay. And then you start working as a RN somewhere?
Yes.
Where?
Baptist Hospital,
What state? Tennessee?
Tennessee.
How long did you work there?
I don't know, about 5 years.
Okay. And then where'd you work next?
I worked at the regional. I worked at the Regional Medical Center,
Where's that?
Tennessee.
And were you working as an RN?
Yes.
So that'd be around 1992 approximately. I'm not going to hold you to these dates exactly. How long did you work at the Regional Medical Center?
I don't remember. About 3 years, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And then where'd you go?
I worked at the VA,
VA where?
Tennessee.
Tennessee. You working as an RN?
Yes.
You started there approximately 1995.
I started at VA in 1998.
Okay. In Tennessee, and were you working as an RN?
Yes.
How long did you work there?
Up until the one in Tennessee,
Yes.
until 2002.
2002. Okay. And then where'd you work?
Phoenix VA,
When did you start there?
2002.
And how long did you work at the Phoenix VA?
2013.
2013. How'd your employment come to an end in 2013 at the VA?
I didn't like how the VA treated me at the time I was there,
What didn't you like about how they treated you?
because they didn't like me having my own business, and so I ended up leaving because I felt they was mistreating me with that.
What was your own business?
Seeing patients, primary care,
Yeah, outside the VA system?
outside of the VA system.
And it was your own business, so did you have a corporation or a company name?
Yes.
What was it?
Living faith.
And what did you do? Did you go to people's homes?
Yes.
So your own business was you would go to people's homes and do some sort of primary care for them in their homes,
Yes.
outside of your job at the VA.
Yes.
And what was it they didn't like about that?
Because I didn't tell them that I did.
And so,
Had my own business.
and did they fire you?
No.
Did you quit?
Yes.
Dr. Mobley in his deposition said they fired you, but I guess he's wrong about that. Is that right?
Correct.
So you quit in 2013?
Correct.
Do you have a claim against the VA?
No.
You don't have any sort of administrative claim or lawsuit?
No.
Do you have a separate lawyer that represents you against the VA or related to your employment with the VA?
I don't have a lawsuit against the VA.
No, but I'm asking, do you have a lawyer other than Ms. Harwood that represents you in connection with your VA employment?
No.
Never have?
Yes.
Well, you did. Who was that?
Isaac Hernandez.
Is he here in town?
Yes.
And so, did you drop your claim against the VA?
Yes.
When did you do that?
Sometime this year.
Okay. Did you settle the claim or did you just get rid of it, dismiss it?
This really was dismissed, it really. I think it was a small claim, but nothing really.
Did you get any money in a settlement?
Just little.
Okay. You don't have to tell me how much, but they paid you something, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so you told me about your degrees. You had a LPN in 1980. You had an RN in 1985. You told me you took the nursing boards in around 87. Do you have any other education or degrees?
I have a bachelor's of business administration degree.
Okay, and where did you get that and when?
I don't remember when. It was in Tennessee.
Okay. Well, if you got your RN in 85, Did you get your bachelor's in business after your RN?
I got it in between my associate and my bachelor's,
So between 1980 and 1985.
something like that.
Okay. Where did you get your bachelor's?
Tennessee.
I'm sorry.
University of Memphis, Tennessee.
University of Memphis. Okay. And then, do you have any other degrees other than, or certifications other than LPN, your bachelor's in business, and your associate's degree in RN?
I have a master's degree
What's your master's degree in?
in nursing, nurse practitioner.
When did you receive that?
2001,
Where did you receive it?
University of Arkansas.
Did you obtain that degree online so you could do it online, or did you have to
No.
go? How did that work?
I went to the school to get my degree.
Okay, University of Arkansas?
Yes.
So did you have to go back to Arkansas?
Yes.
How long did it take you to get that?
2 years.
Okay, and then, did you say you had a PhD?
Yes.
When did you get your PhD?
2005,
And where did you get that?
Kennedy Western University.
And was that something you got online, or did you have to go to a brick and mortar building?
It was online.
How long did it take you to get that?
3, 4 years, 3 years, 4 years.
What's your PhD in?
Health administration.
And just tell me generally, what is health administration?
Like if you was going to do be like an administrator, doing things over the hospital, administrative type things like that.
Okay. Have you ever been disciplined by any medical board for any reason?
No,
Have you ever had your nursing license, either as a nurse practitioner or an RN or an LPN, limited or restricted in any way?
no,
Are there any lawsuits in which you've been accused of medical negligence or medical malpractice?
no,
You ever been a party to a lawsuit? Either sued someone or been sued yourself?
no. You didn't. I put all of my degrees down, certifications.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you told me. What else do you have?
I'm certified as a urology nurse practitioner.
And where did you obtain that certification?
ANCC. I think it's ANCC.
And what's
It's a
that?
national certification. I don't remember. It's a national certification that you get.
Do you know what ANCC stands for?
No, I can't give it to you offhand. I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's American Nursing Certification, something. I'm not sure.
Did you have to attend a school,
I had to take a test.
take a test? And did they give you the certification, the ANCC?
I believe it was ANCC. I'm not 100% sure of the certification, but I believe it's ANCC.
When did they give you that certification as a nurse practitioner in urology?
I don't know exactly. Probably 2007 or 8. I'm not sure.
Okay. Any other certifications or degrees or education you haven't told me about?
Geriatric nursing.
Geriatric nursing, tell me about that.
It's just a certification.
And
I had to take a test.
who gave you that certification?
I think it was ANCC also.
When did you get that?
I don't remember, 2000, maybe 2010. I'm not sure of the dates. It's been a while.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Have you heard anything about Mr. Cooper's case in the media, newspapers, television, radio?
No.
No. Is there anything that would have prevented you from ordering a PSA test for Mr. Cooper back on December 17th, 2011, had you chosen to do so?
No.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
She's going to want to read and sign. That means she's going to send the deposition transcript to me, and then I'll send it to you so you can review it, okay?
Okay.
Okay, we are off the record. The time is 4:52. This ends the deposition of Shirlee Helton.